Ah, Bitcoin. You've heard it all, right? Digital gold, the future of money, a full-blown financial revolution. But what if the whole thing is built on, well, a foundation of sand? Today, we're going to dig into a source that argues exactly that. We're peeling back the hype to get a good look at the fragile reality underneath. The source we're looking at today frames this in a really powerful way. It calls Bitcoin the bottom block in a very tall, very unstable game of Jenga. The whole idea is that the entire crypto industry, everything, is just stacked right on top of it. And if that one piece at the bottom is wobbly, well, we all know what happens in Jenga. So that's the big question, isn't it? What happens if that bottom block gets yanked out? This isn't just about Bitcoin anymore. We're talking about the billions, even trillions of dollars in all these other projects that are stacked on top. The stakes are, as you can imagine, incredibly high. To really get why Bitcoin has any value at all, you have to look at the stories people tell about it. And according to our source, these aren't just technical details. They're really powerful, persuasive stories designed to do one thing: attract new buyers and drive that price up. And you've definitely heard these before. I mean, they're the greatest hits of Bitcoin marketing, right? It's digital gold. It's the future of money. It's going to be your personal shield against inflation and all those corrupt banks. These are the core pitches that keep people buying in. But here's the kicker. The key argument from our source: these stories aren't reality. They're just a marketing tool, and the goalposts are always shifting. The claim is that whenever one narrative, like, say, Bitcoin is digital cash, doesn't pan out, a brand new one, like Bitcoin is digital gold, just pops up to take its place. So let's actually put that very first promise to the test. Bitcoin's original 2008 white paper literally called it a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. In other words, it was supposed to be digital money. So, does it actually function like money? Well, let's see how it holds up against the three classic economic tests.
You see, for something to be considered actual money, economists say it has to pass three simple tests. 1. Can you actually buy things with it? 2. Does it hold its value over time? And 3. Do people actually price things in it, like a cup of coffee? So let's run Bitcoin through this little checklist and see what happens.
Okay, test 1. Can you use it for payments? Well, the numbers here are pretty wild. The entire Bitcoin network can handle about 500,000 transactions in a whole day. Visa does that in less than 8 seconds. As a payment system, it's like comparing a snail to a fighter jet. It's not even close. And the problem isn't just about speed. It's about energy. Get this, a single Bitcoin transaction uses the same amount of electricity as an average US household does in 43 days. So on that first test, as a way to pay for things, our source gives it a big failing grade. All right, fine. So maybe it's not cash, but what about that digital gold story? A safe place to store your wealth? Well, the source points out two massive problems here. First, the price swings are insane. Gold doesn't just drop 20% in a month. And second, the ownership is shockingly concentrated. And just how concentrated are we talking? Well, this slide makes it painfully clear. You can forget all that talk about decentralization. The data shows that the top 2% of accounts control a mind-boggling 95% of all Bitcoin. When that much power is in so few hands, the price becomes incredibly easy to manipulate. In the third and final test, is it a unit of account? Well, that one's an easy no. That cup of coffee isn't priced at 0.0006 Bitcoin. It's priced at $4, right? Businesses that say they accept crypto are really just doing a quick conversion from dollars at the checkout. So on all three tests of what makes money, Bitcoin strikes out. Okay, but look, that's all theory. What happens when you try to use Bitcoin in the real world? Not on a chart, but on the actual street. Well, we actually have the perfect case study for that. The entire country of El Salvador. This was supposed to be Bitcoin's huge debut on the world stage. Back in 2021, El Salvador went all in. I mean, they didn't just allow it. They made it legal tender. They forced businesses to accept it, and they even airdropped free Bitcoin to every single citizen just to get the ball rolling. The government really put its full weight behind making this work. So what happened? Well, let's look at remittances, people sending money home from other countries. This was supposed to be Bitcoin's killer app. But the data shows that even with this massive government push, 98% of people just stuck with the old way of doing things. The adoption just never happened. And that lack of real-world use gets even clearer when you look at the government's official crypto wallet. Sure, a ton of people downloaded it, but a full 60% of them just took the free $30 handout, immediately cashed it out to dollars, and never used the app again.
It was a freebie, not an adoption.
And the verdict from the actual people of El Salvador? The experiment failed. According to recent polling, 2/3 of the population now say the whole project was a failure. So it seems that real-world test did not go so well.
So this brings us right back to our main question. If Bitcoin doesn't really work as money, and all those narratives are just marketing, then where does its value actually come from? Well, the source suggests it comes from a very old economic idea.
It's called the greater fool theory, and the idea is brutally simple. It says that the only reason to buy an overvalued asset is because you believe you can find someone else, a greater fool, who will be willing to pay an even higher price for it down the line.
And according to this source, that's the entire game for Bitcoin. Think about it. Unlike a stock, it doesn't pay dividends. Unlike a commodity, you can't actually use it to make something. Its value comes from one thing and one thing only: a constant stream of new buyers who are willing to pay more than the last person did.
And this is where all those stories we talked about circle back in. Digital gold, the future of money. They all serve one single purpose: to create new buyers, to keep finding that next greater fool in line. This entire system, the source argues, is fueled by that one belief.
And that leaves us with the ultimate, lingering question. This whole system works just fine as long as that line of new buyers keeps growing. But what happens to the price, to that unstable Jenga tower, to the entire industry, when you eventually run